Maverick traders, welcome out to your market roundup for June 5th. Let's get right into it. So today we started off the week on a relative high note. The markets were up a bit early in the morning. Oil was sharply higher on some Saudi Arabian oil cuts, and things were kind of pushing higher early on, but then they reversed, and the biggest reversal was in oil, but the Dow was down 0.5%, S&P turned negative, Russell 2000 was the weakest performer, down 1.3. Oil gave back all of its early gains from up 3 to 4% to unchanged. Is pretty ugly reversal. Gold slightly higher. Bitcoin, if you follow that market, was down sharply on some news that Binance and some other companies were being sued and potential risks there. So as we said on the daily news, you had the Bitcoin negative news, you had oil gapping higher on production cuts, but then couldn't hold the gains. And then last but not least, Apple introduced a new VR headset. Talked about at its investor day, just product launches, different things like that. And again, markets couldn't hold those gains. Not great price action. Advanced decline line, about 2/3 of stocks going down, and the 50-day moving average really tells a story about how half of stocks are in an uptrend, half are in a downtrend, even though the broader markets have been moving higher. So you look at this S&P chart and you'd think that most stocks would be in an uptrend. It's about half and half. We have seen this turn a little bit more vertical. We saw last week the rally broaden out and some of the other sectors move higher. That was good for kind of the short-term breadth, but I worry about the market. The S&P doesn't show it quite as much as the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ has made that exhaustion, that kind of parabolic curve. And I mentioned that, look, over the past few months, I've just maintained a bullish outlook. That's been my expectation, that we were just going to continue to move higher. Up here, I think we have started to see exhaustion, and this NASDAQ chart really tells a story. We were in a little consolidation back here. That's what we call a stage one, just a resting period. Here's the breakout. You can see the big volume surge. That's the start of the race. The middle of a race gets to be a grind, and you just try to churn out another mile. Just continue to get those feet moving, get those legs going, just grinding out the miles. And that's all stage three. That's continuation of a trend. And when the trend turns parabolic like this, and the news gets bullish, and everybody's positive, you've now left this normal stage three, all of this, where you're kind of pulling back to the moving averages and consolidating and having this zigzag pattern. Well, now the train has really left the station, and look at how far extended away you are from the 20-period moving average. Look at how far extended away you are from the 50-period moving average. The price action getting too vertical, and this is where you enter stage four, which is where euphoria sets in, where the bulls declare victory, where they say the bad days are behind us and so forth. The news has turned bullish and quote unquote good, right? Everything looks rosy. The jobs picture last Friday, we're going to get a CPI number next week, and we know that that's going to see a huge drop because June and July's CPI numbers from last year were so high, and we're going to lose some of those. So you're seeing all these good things. Well, that's why the market was advancing previously, is because of all this good that's now coming out. The problem is you're pricing in the future. And so what's the news going to look like? What's the economy going to look like as you fast forward 6 months, 8 months, 12 months? And that's where I think, again, there's bigger problems for the market. So is the trend bullish? Yes, but it's now too bullish. It's in essence so good, it's become bad. Now you're extended, you're overheated. It looks like that runner that sees the finish line and sprints for the finish. And when that happens, it's not an exact day. You can't say, well, today's the day and it has to go down from this point forth. No, it's an area. This is the topping out zone, and now we should see a pretty big size correction in my mind. So have I sort of started to flip a 180 of sorts, started to say, hey, we entered. In fact, I did the trading room, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and I talked about that essentially this was that Friday, and I said, we might push a little bit higher. We could go up for another few days, and that's what we've done, is gone a little bit higher, but this is entering that exhaustion phase. Now, it wasn't really necessarily there on Friday, but you get a little bit higher like this, and that's where it should start to fade off. So again, I'm not suggesting that today has to be the top, but tops are often found with longer upper shadows like today's candle, just as bottoms are often formed with long lower shadows. Hammers are most common at bottoms. Well, shooting star like candles are most common at tops. And this is the first one we've had in a while, you can see. And there was one back here, and it was a temporary top. And there was one back here, and it was a temporary top. And there was one back here, and it was a temporary top. And there was one back here, and it was a temporary top. Well, we're at least at a temporary top, and I worry that we might be at something worse. Now, as we look at the heat map, again, is about half and half, but actually more negative than positive. I guess it was about 2/3 of stocks were declining today. And you can see just little pockets of weakness. Industrials, I mean, how, with oil up 3 to 4% on oil production cuts, how disappointing is that price action? If you want to short something, that was quote unquote good news for energy, and they traded horribly. So when you trade poorly on good news, that's a market tell. Industrials really weak. And then over here in tech, Apple, big news day and couldn't stay positive. Not great price action overall. So as I look at this, I mean, for me, I would be a little bit more on this spectrum of things. Do I know that it's going to go down again immediately? No, but I'm gravitating that way, because if you said, well, where's the next 1 or 2%, I'd almost say flip a coin. But if you ask me where was the next 10 to 15% move, I feel pretty good that that is to the downside. I think there's a pretty good size correction coming, and that's what I've been waiting for. That's what I've suggested in these market roundups week after week, is watch for the exhaustion highs, watch for that big sprint higher, and that will be a sign to me to take off bulls, to get more, at least half and half, right? And for the first time in a long time, for me, I'm getting there. I'm more evenly weighted on bullish and bearish trades for the first time in months, and I'll probably continue to skew that even more on the bearish side. I haven't really gone full out aggressively bearish, but I'm on edge to do that. Let's talk about some ideas here. The bullish names, harder to find for me. Things that I want to buy, things that I feel like their setups are good, and just harder for me to find. Bearish setups, just like a couple of weeks ago when I did the market roundup, 2 Mondays ago. I didn't do last week's because markets were closed last Monday, but 2 weeks ago we had a lot of bears, and they all went lower from that period on. So you look at the Wynn Resorts and some of those names, and they're down even in an upward moving market. So if I were going to buy something, I'm not ready to buy IBM here, but it looks like something that would interest me on a pullback. I can make a compelling argument that maybe we see a pullback that's worth buying here in IBM. It's that older tech that I would trust more than getting into something that's already moved a ton. I'm not willing to put money to work in Nvidia or something like that, but something like IBM, a little more intriguing if you were to pull back to 130 per share, something along those lines. I could see considering it. Again, not ready to buy today. JP Morgan Chase, if you wanted to buy something, maybe we get a little bit more back and feel. Can this continue to hold up well versus other financials? Perhaps. And again, it's in the financial sector, it's one of the ones that has way outperformed the rest of the group, so some relative strength signs. I'm having trouble finding things I'd be willing to buy, so I'm stretching a little. If you are interested in the financial sector, at least come for something that's held up better. And then maybe Rivian. Now, this is a stock that's been left for dead, and that's kind of, this would be one of those counterintuitive bullish trades. In the prior weeks, I highlighted Carnival and Royal Caribbean, and some of those stocks have taken off. And I'd put Rivian in this category of, do we really dare buy something that has been so bad like Rivian and has so much competition and so on? Well, the thing that's enticing is, number one, we have maybe a chart set up where you have a little ascending triangle of sorts. So maybe this is a little opportunity to buy the dip and it'll trade back to the upper end and maybe even break out, at which point I would take profit. So we have some chart construction here. We have a bullish cross, but more than that, I would say everybody knows how much competition there is, how bad these have been. The numbers have been dreadful. GM, Ford, all of them been left for dead. That makes it a little more enticing. When nobody has the stomach to buy it anymore and it's bottomed out, I suppose out of all the bullish trades, this one's the most counterintuitive, RIVN, and maybe, just maybe, like the counterintuitive candidates on the bullish side the last couple of weeks that have worked well, maybe Rivian can make a run higher. That would be something that I would at least consider. Again, I don't have a position. Now let's talk about bearish candidates. Well, something like Abbott Labs has broken down below the moving averages, even as the market's been strong. Now we're rallying, but it looks like a classic bear pullback, right? We're rallying up from lower lows, should stall out here and make another leg lower. ABT, Abbott Labs, could be considered. Johnson & Johnson, sort of similar. Bearish crossovers. Now we've rallied up underneath these moving averages. Maybe we roll over here. So the healthcare sector has been really pretty disappointing and moving sharply lower in what's been a good market environment in the last couple of months. So leading to the downside, weak when other things were strong. Those are signs of probably more weakness to come. And then, like I said, out of all the sectors and all the groups that were disappointing today, I would put oil and energy and those things at the top of the list. When you can't hold up after the news that came out about oil, not a great sign. And I have to wonder aloud if Exxon is coming back to those lows and possibly even piercing that low at $100 per share. But I look at Exxon at 105 and suspect that maybe best case it goes sideways, worst case we might be headed down towards 100 again and quite possibly lower. So QQQ I think is already at that exhaustion point. If you were interested in buying, the rally has a little bit more branched out into some of the other sectors. So S&P is more bullish in the short term than QQQ, and maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit more upside. You know, again, where do we go the next week or so? I don't know. Where do we go over the next couple of months? I feel pretty good that we're going lower. So initial jobless claims on Thursday as always, and then earnings season is really wound down. Sienna, DocuSign, Neo, but nothing market moving or anything of the sort. And on the economic side, there's nothing really there. So this happens every week, and it's just not a big market mover. Economic news, pretty much a non-factor this week. Earnings news, pretty much a non-factor. So we're just trading the technicals this week. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. Hope you enjoyed the market roundup. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.